After days of navigating twisting tunnels and dodging drow patrols, the weary band of adventurers stumble into a cavern unlike any other. The walls glimmering with crystalline formations and the air is thick with magical energy. Just as the bard begins to compose a beautiful limerick about the peaceful beauty of the Underdark, the ground begins to tremble with a wet and rhythmic squelching. From the shadows emerges a creature equal parts ridiculous and terrifying. A massive snail with a glistening rainbow-hued shell and 5 gnarly flailing tentacles ending in bony mace-like clubs. It shimmers and it glares and it somehow oozes confidence, and as the wizard raises a finger to cast Fireball, the spell fizzled. Confused by this, the party readied themselves with battle with the strange rainbowed creature. Yes, in today's video we are talking about the rainbow terrors known as the Flail Snail. Hello and welcome to Dungeon Deep Dive, where we talk about all things D&D monsters, from monsters and their lore to their publication history, where they originated, and how you can use them in your D&D games. Apologies again for the lack of videos the past few weeks. It's been a roller coaster of a month with work, life, and I recently got engaged. So that is a lot of stress and just sleepless nights off of me, off of my shoulders right now. And we are back and ready to talk about the weird and strange monsters in the D&D multiverse. The Flail Snail is an elemental creature in 5e that, as you would imagine, kind of looks like a snail. And again, as the name suggests, it has between 4 and 6 tentacles on its head that end in spiky protrusions that look like flails. You really do gotta love it sometimes when the monster looks exactly like what it's named. It just makes it so much easier to visualize in your head. They have a very colorful sparkling shell that does actually have some magical abilities, mainly of the anti-magic kind. As you can imagine, as like normal snails, they are not very fast creatures and eat anything and everything in their path. That could be as little as veggies, rocks, or even sand and dirt. But they do have a particular fondness for crystal growths and mineral deposits. So instead of sucking it all up like a vacuum, they will take their time and savor every moment like it's the last meal that they'll ever eat. Now, they're not really classed as attack on sight creatures. If you do run into these little speed demons, they will probably just slide right on by without even batting an eyelid to you. Even if they don't have eyelids, which I don't think they do. But if you attack them, they will retaliate. Now, me personally, I've never really been a huge fan of snails. I know there are some people out there who are. I just think it's the sliminess of them. It's just not for me. I mean, I just don't like it. I don't know what it is. But speaking about that, the Flail Snail's wet mucus that it expels from its body makes it immune to fire, as well as its slow metabolism, making it immune to poison as well. The mucus that it creates is produced by a gland in the front of the Flail Snail's foot, it says. Yep, that's what I said. Apparently it's got a foot. I don't know where the foot is. I've looked at all of the artwork for about 10 minutes and I can't see a foot or toes anywhere, but we're just gonna go with it. It serves as a protective layer for its skin and helps keep it lubricated while it moves. The trail of the mucus that it leaves behind is a shimmering slime that will glitter in moonlight and can be used to make glass and opaque glass. Now, let's sit down and have the birds and the bees talk. When a mommy Flail Snail and a daddy Flail Snail love each other very much, they meet for the first time on a hot speed dating app, and once they find a match, they exchange love darts to initiate the mating ritual, where they do the dirty and then they go their separate ways, never to speak again. Where later down the line, the mommy Flail Snail will then lay the eggs, or about around a dozen eggs she'll probably lay. Do real snails actually lay eggs? I need to do some research on this. I've never thought of how a baby snail is born, because I've never seen a baby snail before. If you've seen a baby snail, let me know in the comments below. If these rainbow slime balls are attacked, they do have some defensive capabilities. The shell can emit an extremely bright light that makes it difficult for it to be targeted by anyone in the area. Like mentioned before, the shell does give it some ability to be extremely resistant to magical attacks and abilities. This means it can either reflect the attack back at the caster or convert it into energy into a blast of force damage. The Flail Snail does have some physical attacking capabilities as well as its resistances. As you would have guessed it, the flails on its tentacles. The tentacles have hardened skin on the ends with protrusions strong enough to crush wood and deal some hurtful damage to anyone that comes into contact with it. If you manage to deal enough damage to a single tentacle, the tentacle will fall off and die, and the snail will stay alive, and eventually, after a few days, if it survived the initial attack, it would regrow the lost limb in only a few days. So it's got some pretty strong regeneration capabilities. If you manage to destroy all of the flails on the snail, flails on the snail, I don't know why it feels so fun to say flail on the snail. Flail on the snail, flail, flail, flail on the snail. The snail will retract into its shell and give out a loud wailing cry until it is either killed or restored all of its flails. I feel like that would be such a sad sight, just hearing just this pitiful little snail creature that didn't want to attack you anyway to begin with, just crawl into its shell and just cry while you just mutilate it. I feel like that would make me stop attacking it, I'll be honest with you. It made me feel sorry for it. I want to keep it as a pet. I feel like there are actual strategies to the loud wailing it emits, as it could potentially attract other creatures in the area to attack its attackers while it makes its grand escape. When it comes to where it lives on the prime plane, they usually prefer the underdark, where they can eat all year round. But if they do choose to live on the surface, the flail snail will usually go into hibernation around winter times, purely because of the lack of food and the brightness of the sun in that time. Okay, now let's go over the publication history of the Flail Snail. They made their first appearance in the 1981 first edition Fiend Folio. In this book, it's classed as a silicone-based mollusk that averages around 8 feet tall at the crown of its shell and keeps its dub tentacles, of which it has 4 or 6, in constant motion. Now, me personally, I've never played first edition, unfortunately. I would love to do that one day. But looking at this page here, it says the number of attacks is 1 per tentacle. And I'm reading that, say for example, it has 6 tentacles. Would that be 6 attacks in 1 turn? It would, right? I'm pretty sure, like the 5th edition. So pretty much they keep that all the way through. That's pretty nice. Moving on to 2nd edition, the Flail Snail appears in the 1990 2nd edition Monstrous Compendium Greyhawk Adventures Appendix. The art in this book is pretty cool, and it says the shell is a mass of neon blues, reds, greens, and yellows, like a spiraled rave-like disco. It lets us know as well that as well as the flails on its head, it also has small sensory tentacles that helps the creature see up to 20 feet away. With the rulings of 2nd edition, again, I've never played 2nd edition. I would love to one day, but unfortunately I haven't played that, but I would love to. The Flail Snail's hit dice are determined on how many tentacles the creature has at the time. It says the body has hit points equal to the combined total of all the tentacles, but it is nearly impossible to attack because it is protected by the creature's shell. The effective armor class of the body is a -8, which in 5e talk, from what I can understand, would be around like an AC of 11, maybe? Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Like I say, I tried to convert it from 2nd edition to 5e, and I think that's what I got, but I could be completely way off there. It gives us some information on the ecology of the creature. It says that the snail lives off of lichen and algae that seems to grow on the floor of dungeons. Glands in their mouth secrete a substance that loosens the plants, and the mouth then scrapes up the loosened plants from the ground. It lets us know that when the snail is giving birth, they can give up to 1d3 young, and when they are born, they remain with their mother for 2 years until they become into their own, with their own mini flails flapping around. Then they will, if they're lucky enough to reach full maturity at 4 years old, and live up to a max of 20 years. Again, how long does an actual snail live? I'm gonna research this. Interesting, they can live up to 15 years, so that's pretty close to an actual snail. Nice, I like that. We do get a little more information on the Flail Snail's shell, saying that the magic on the shell after the flail's death fades in 1d6 months and can be used to make 2+2 shields, as well as a magic item called the Robe of Scintillating Colors. They also appear in Dragon Magazine number 258, which gives us a 6-page dialogue about the ecology of the Flail Snail, as well as some pretty cool artwork. In the magazine, they are no longer classed as silicone-based life forms, but hermaphroditic gastropods. It also gives us more details on the mating rituals of these snails, telling us that they slowly circle each other while rubbing their heads and feet together. I don't agree that they have feet. I don't know why, it just doesn't feel right to say that a snail has feet. And then knock their slimy boots together to fertilize the eggs. Even though they didn't make an appearance in the official 3rd edition manuals, it does appear in the Pathfinder Bestiary 3. In this book, they have some interesting abilities which I feel could be really fun. It has an ability called Mucus, where as a free action, the Flail Snail can excrete a trail of mucus that covers its space and lasts up to 10 minutes. This mucus comes in 2 types, slimy or sticky. A character who attempts to move through an area covered in slimy mucus must make a DC 14 reflex save, which I'm assuming is like a dex save, each round or fall pro. The sticky mucus transforms squares into difficult terrain. Only one type of mucus can be in effect at a time on any one square, and flail snails can move through either type of slime with ease. A square of mucus exposed to a fire source dries and reverts back to normal. The save DC is a constitution based save. Another cool ability is one that it has called Slime Rope. A flail snail can turn its mucus into a rope-like strand up to 60 feet long. It can use this rope to hang itself and up to 1,000 extra pounds from the ceiling indefinitely, or to lower itself safely at a speed of 20 feet per round. It can climb back up this rope at a speed of 10 feet per round, and once the snail breaks contact with the rope, the slime decomposes in 1d4 rounds. While the slime rope exists, other creatures can climb the rope with a DC 20 climb check. Imagine that you're going through the Underdog and you just see say like 50 flail snails just slowly descending from the ceiling. It's like a scene from like 8-Legged Freaks with like spiders crawling down. That would actually scare the hell out of me. Now moving on to 4th edition, they do appear in a small April Fool's adventure called the Fool's Grove Delve Adventure, where we only get a small stat block for the Stale Trail Flail Snail. As you can see from the stat block, they are a little less threatening in a way to the previous versions, with only 2 tentacle attacks, and once the creature has taken half of its HP in damage, the shell shatters, reducing the armor class. Now moving on to 5th edition. In this edition, we get info on the flail snail in the 5th edition Volo's Guide to Monsters, and in this book they are classed as creatures from the elemental plane of Earth. We only get a small paragraph on the creature, but it does say that when it is approached by a possible hunter, it unleashes a flash of scintillating light and then swings its flails at the target like a madman. We also get the stat block for the flail snail in the Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse. Okay, so we've gone over these flail trail makers through D&D's history. Now let's go over the 5e stat blocks of these creatures and how you can use them in your D&D games. Hey guys, this is going to be editing deep dive here. I'm just going to let you know that I put a poll out about the 2024 stat blocks that I'm going to be putting in, but I recorded and began editing this video before I put that poll out. So from now on, there should be 2024 stat blocks added at the stat block section of the video. All right, I'm out. This thing has an AC of 16 and 52 hit points and a speed of 10 feet, which I feel is one of the slowest monsters in D&D. I don't think I've ever seen many stat blocks that have a 10 feet of movement speed. It is immune to fire damage as well as poison damage, and immune to the poison condition. It has dark vision of 60 feet, tremor sense of 60 feet, and a CR of 3, which is on the same level as the basilisk and the owlbear. It has an ability called Anti-Magic Shell, where the snail has advantage on saving throws against spells, and any creature making a spell attack against the snail has disadvantage on the attack roll. If the snail succeeds on its saving throw against a spell or a spell attack, an additional effect may occur as determined by a roll of a d6. If you roll a 1 or a 2, and if the spell affects an area or has multiple targets, it fails and has no effect. If the spell targets only the snail, it has no effect on the snail and is reflected back at the caster, using the same spell slot level, spell save DC, attack bonus, and spell casting ability on the caster. So wait a minute. So if say someone casted Disintegrate at the snail and you rolled a 1 or a 2, that would get reflected back at the caster? That's crazy. That's crazy. Ooh, maybe I could make a magic item based on the shell where it's a +2 shell and it has a... Oh, I'm going to make it. Oh, I'm going to make that item. Okay. If you roll a 3 or a 4, there are no additional effects. If you roll a 5 or a 6, the snail's shell converts some of the spell's energy into a burst of destructive force. Each creature within 30 feet of the snail must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw, or take 1d6 force damage per level of the spell on a failed save, or half as much on a successful save. It has another ability called Flail Tentacles, where the flail snail has 5 flailing tentacles. Whenever the snail takes 10 damage or more on a single turn, one of its tentacles dies. If even one tentacle remains, the snail regrows all dead ones within 1d4 days, and if all the tentacle dies, the snail retracts into its shell, gaining total cover, and begins wailing. And the sound can be heard from 600 feet away, stopping only when it dies in 5d6 minutes later. Healing magic can restore the limbs, such as the regeneration spell, and can halt this dying process. Now for the actions, it has a multi-attack where it can make as many tentacle attacks as it has flailing tentacles against one target. The Flail Snail has a +5 to hit with a reach of 10 feet and deals 1d6 +3 bludgeoning damage. To be fair, that is a lot of damage I feel for a CR3 monster. So let's say for example it has 5 tentacles, right? That's 5 attacks on one person. That is 5d6 plus, wait a minute, is that plus the modifier? Is that the modifier times by 5 as well? So that'll be 5d6 plus, no, that can't be right. No, that can't be right. No, never mind, I'm being stupid. So that'll be 5d6 plus 3. That's still a lot. That's still a lot of damage for a CR3. Whew, I may have to use one of these guys. It has an action called Scintillating Shell that recharges on a short or long rest, where the snail's shell emits a dazzling colored light until the end of the snail's next turn. During this time, the shell sheds bright light into a 30 feet radius and a dim light for an additional 30 feet, and creatures that can see the snail have disadvantage on attack rolls against it. In addition, any creature within the bright light and able to see the snail when its power is activated must succeed on a DC 15 wisdom saving throw or be stunned until the light ends. So you get all those flail swings and you're stunned, so it has advantage. Oh baby, oh, I have some thoughts about this guy. And finally, it has an action called Shell Defense, where the Flail Snail withdraws into its shell, gaining a +4 bonus to AC until it emerges. It can emerge from its shell as a bonus action on that turn. Okay, let's go over a couple of homebrew stat blocks I've made, as well as how you can use them in your games. First off, we have the Lava Flail Snail. It's a CR4 monster with an AC of 17 and 96 hit points and a speed of 20 feet. I gave it the same resistances but added a resistance to non-magical attacks for its traits. I gave it the same resistances but I also added a resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, slashing and piercing damage. For its traits, I've given it an ability called Molten Trail, where the snail leaves behind molten sludge in a 5-foot wide line. Any creature that steps on it must make a DC 13 dexterity saving throw or take 1d6 fire damage and have their movement halved until the end of their turn. I've also kept for its actions the flail attacks the same with the 1d6 bludgeoning damage, but I've also added that it does an additional 2d6 fire damage on top of the bludgeoning. Now for the next stat block, I thought I wanted to go a little crazy. So I wanted to make a Flail Snail that maybe consumed some corrupted magic mineral from maybe the far realm that absorbed into its body, maybe? The Elder Prism's Flail Snail is a CR10 monster with an AC of 18 and 168 hit points and has a speed of 20 feet. I gave it saving throws in Con and Wisdom, as well as a resistance to fire, force, cold and poison damage. And I also gave it an immunity to psychic and poison. For its traits, I gave it an ability called Far-Touched Prismatic Shell, where whenever the snail is targeted by a spell of 3rd level or lower, you roll a d6 and choose one of the following effects. On a 1 or a 2, the spell has no effect. On a 3 to a 4, the spell is reflected at a random creature within 60 feet. On a 5, the spell is absorbed and the snail regains 10 hit points. But if you roll a 6, you get an effect called Reality Distorts, where the spell is absorbed into the shell, but then you roll a d100 off of the wild magic table. I know technically this doesn't really fit because it's wild magic, but I just love the wild magic table so much. I feel like I have to put it into a monster eventually. I feel like this would just be kind of fun. I kept the same flail tentacle abilities, and for its actions it has a multi-attack with as many as tentacles as it has, each having a +9 to hit and a reach of 10 feet and dealing 2d10 +6 bludgeoning damage, as well as 2d8 damage of one of the following types rolled randomly. Either fire, cold, lightning, force, psychic or acid. And finally I gave it a recharge ability called Shatter Prism, where the snail pulses with far realm energy. Each creature within the 30 feet must make a DC 16 constitution saving throw or take 8d8 force damage and be blinded until the end of their next turn. And on a success, they take half damage and are not blinded. Looking back in this, I think I might have made this a little bit too powerful, but hey ho. Make your party suffer. When looking into these creatures, I hated that there were not more editions of them through the books. Your party could be in an underground like black market selling forbidden and illegal items, where there's an individual selling a unique Flail Snail that as the party goes to investigate, the snail communicates with them telepathically. Maybe it absorbs some magical item that gave it telepathy, asking the party to help escape. You could do some like Ocean 11's Mission Impossible types quest to like distract the owner of the snail that's trying, and while he's trying to sell it, while you make its grand escape through the market. But that's all I have for you guys today on the Flail Snail. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all found this video helpful, and if there's anything that I've missed, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. What monster would you like me to cover in the future? Let me know in the comments below and I'll add your comment at the end of that video. If you've enjoyed the video, drop it a like and a cheeky sub if you haven't already. It helps a lot more than you realize. Thank you all for watching and I will see you all in the next one.